The European Union's Aviation Safety Agency suspending all flights by Boeing's MAX 8 aircraft following Sunday's deadly plane crash in Ethiopia. The EU joining China, Australia, Indonesia, and other countries in grounding the planes. Boeing says it has full confidence in their 737 MAX, but President Trump tweeting this out, quote, "Airplanes are becoming far too complex to fly. Pilots are no longer needed, but rather computer scientists from MIT. I see it all the time in many products, always seeking to go one unnecessary step further when often old and simpler is far better. Split-second decisions are needed, and the complexity creates danger. All of this for great cost, yet very little gain. I don't know about you, but I don't want Albert Einstein to be my pilot. I want great flying professionals that are allowed to easily and quickly take control of a plane." Let's bring in former NTSB member John Goglia. So, John, any truth in what the president is saying?
There definitely is some truth to that. You know, we can see, I can remember when the introduction of the Airbus into the U.S. Fleet at that time was an all-analog fleet, and many of our pilots had difficulty transitioning. So it's definitely a different airplane to fly, and we keep adding to that more complex systems. So I think he is correct that they are more difficult to fly because you have to, A, remember how to fly a real airplane, and then you're flying the computer.
John Layfield here. 1970, there were 1,474 deaths in the air because of air traffic fatalities. We fast forward to now, 13 times the current flights are going out right now, and only 57 people died last year in 2018. The safety that has come about because you put computers in planes. I mean, I know that maybe flying too high and too fast may be dangerous also. That seems crazy to me, and this statement seems nuts that you had a 95% reduction in air traffic fatalities in the last 20 years. Do you really think that the computers are to blame? We should throw them out?
Heck no. All right. What we should do is train our pilots to a higher standard than we're training now. You know, why do you think, I'll ask you a question, why do you think that the Southwest American and Ryanair are not having problems with their Airbus, with their MAX 800s, and other countries are? Could it be the training? Could it be the amount of training they get and the type of training they get? I think that has to be looked at very, very carefully.
John, Brian Bremberg here.
I think
the president's getting a lot of critique.
You asked me a question, so I'll answer. You have a 1 in 114 chance of dying in a car. That is 100% driver either error or driver correctness. You have a 1 in 9,862 chance dying in an airplane. To me, I want a computer in my plane. I'm not a Luddite who's going to take a sledgehammer to it.
I want a qualified pilot in my airplane that knows how to fly an airplane without automation and knows how to fly an airplane with automation.
Hey, John, Brian Bremberg here. You know, I don't think the president is saying throw computers out of airplanes. I think he's actually raising a legitimate point, given where technology is, which is what is that line between computer control and human control, whether we're talking about a plane or a car or a semi-truck. I mean, that interface, that interaction, how does a human step in, is the question for a lot of our major automation technologies right now. And I think it has to be answered with airplanes as much as it does for cars and semis. Isn't that the fundamental issue we're talking about here?
Yes, that's called man-machine interface, and we definitely need to address that, especially given the width and breadth of what computers can do today. I'll bet every one of you use Windows in some form or another, or Word. Do you think you know every piece of what goes into that, every command? And they keep updating it, so it keeps changing. You know, I'm a one-click kind of person. If it isn't a one-click, I sit there looking at it.
So, John, it's Carol Roth. In terms of the effect on the stocks, because obviously you have Boeing that's affected here, and then you have a lot of the airline companies. Is this something where there's going to be an update that's rolled out? Is there something where pilots are going to have to be trained before these airplanes go back into rotation? What do you think is going to be the implications for all the different players here?
Well, I certainly think that they're going to take a look at the training based upon what I just said. The fact that we don't have those issues with the major carriers in the West that are flying these airplanes, but we have other countries that are having problems. What's the difference? Why are they having the problems and we're not? So somebody has to take a look at that. You know, and I would expect the FAA to look at it, but, you know, we haven't had an FAA administrator. We've got one appointed, but we haven't had a permanent FAA administrator now in a couple of years, and we need to change that.
John, countries are not allowing Boeing to ride their 737 MAX in certain countries based on this. If you were running Boeing, what would you say to those people running those countries about the safety of their airplane based on, you know, Ethiopia and Indonesia happening?
Show me the facts. You know, I'm a trained investigator. I've been doing that for more years than I want to count. I am fact-driven, and the facts as we know them today do not support those actions. Now, unless they know something that they're not sharing with us, then that might change the picture. But based upon what we know, the actions of grounding or banning those airplanes doesn't make sense. So, and the other piece is no one has linked these two accidents together. You know, the Indonesian accident was in the hangar. Airplane wasn't fixed. Those pilots were given an airplane that never should have been put in the air. So that's apples, and now we're talking about oranges, and there's no linkage yet.
So just to put a fine point on it, John, you would not recommend grounding the MAX 8s here in the United States?
I would not, and I flew one last night, chock-a-block full of people, and talking to some of the people in the holding areas because they recognized me as being on TV yesterday. All of them had no problems flying the airplane.
All right. John, great to see you. Thank you very much for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Safe travels.